The research station, Prometheus, hung in the void like a metal flower, its solar arrays stretched wide to catch the distant light of Kepler 442. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the observation deck's viewport, watching the planet below rotate slowly on its axis. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment, and tomorrow they would make first contact with the surface. "Still can't believe we're actually here," murmured Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, joining her at the window. His reflection showed tired eyes beneath graying temples, the result of too many sleepless nights coordinating the mission details. Sarah nodded, her breath fogging the cold surface. "The atmospheric readings are perfect. Oxygen levels at 21%, nitrogen at 78, trace amounts of argon. It's like Earth's twin sister." The planet below was a swirl of blue oceans and green continents, white clouds dancing across its surface in patterns that seemed almost choreographed. But something felt wrong to Sarah, though she couldn't put her finger on what exactly troubled her. "The xenobiology team is excited," Jake continued. "Dr. Patel thinks we might find complex life forms down there, maybe even intelligent species." "That's what worries me," Sarah admitted. She turned away from the viewport and walked toward the central console where holographic displays showed real-time data streaming from the orbital sensors. "We've been monitoring for 6 months now, and there's something odd about the life sign patterns." Jake followed her, his military training making him instantly alert to the concern in her voice. "What kind of odd?" Sarah manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the largest continent. Red dots appeared scattered across the landmass, each one representing a significant biomass reading. "Look at these signatures. They're massive, but they don't move in herds or packs like we'd expect from large fauna. Each signature is solitary, and they seem to avoid each other." "Could be territorial behavior," Jake suggested, but his frown deepened as he studied the data. "That's what I thought initially," Sarah replied, calling up movement pattern analysis. "But watch this time-lapse from the past month." The display showed the red dots moving across the terrain in seemingly random patterns. But as the time-lapse accelerated, a disturbing picture emerged. Smaller blue dots representing medium-sized life forms would appear near the red signatures, then simply vanish within hours. "Predation?" Jake asked, though something in his voice suggested he already suspected it was more than simple hunting behavior. "If it is, it's unlike anything in our databases. The kill rate is extraordinary. A single red signature eliminates dozens of blue ones in a matter of days, then moves on to find more prey. There's no feeding pause, no rest period. It's like they're driven by something beyond normal hunger." The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Dr. Rajesh Patel entered, carrying a tablet displaying preliminary genetic analysis data. His usually cheerful demeanor seemed subdued as he approached the pair. "Sarah, Jake, you need to see this," he said, his Indian accent thick with worry. "The DNA samples we collected from atmospheric particles during our approach are showing some very disturbing characteristics." Sarah accepted the tablet and scanned the genetic markers. Her face went pale as she absorbed the implications. "These cellular structures show signs of aggressive mutation. The mitochondrial activity is off the charts." "What does that mean in plain English?" Jake asked, though his military instincts were already telling him it wasn't good news. Dr. Patel adjusted his glasses nervously. "It means these organisms are burning through energy at an incredible rate. Their metabolisms are hyperactive, which would explain the constant need for food. But there's more." He took back the tablet and switched to another screen. "The neural pathway analysis suggests a level of intelligence combined with what appears to be permanent aggression response activation." "You're saying they're smart and permanently angry?" Jake's hand unconsciously moved toward where his sidearm would normally rest. "More than that," Patel continued. "The genetic markers suggest they've been artificially enhanced. This isn't natural evolution, Commander. Someone or something has been tampering with the life forms on this planet. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Enhanced how? Increased muscle density, reinforced skeletal structure, heightened sensory awareness, and most disturbing of all, accelerated healing factors. These creatures can recover from injuries that would be fatal to most Earth organisms within a matter of hours. The three scientists stood in silence, absorbing the implications. Finally, Jake spoke up. Recommendations? We should abort the surface mission, Sarah said immediately. This is beyond our mission parameters. We need to report back to Earth Command and request a military science vessel. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't that simple. Earth Command had invested billions in this mission, and the pressure to gather data from humanity's first potentially habitable exoplanet was enormous. The political ramifications of returning empty-handed would be severe. Jake was thinking along similar lines. We have protocols for dangerous life forms. The landing team is equipped with the latest defensive technology. Maybe we can gather enough data for a preliminary assessment without making direct contact. Dr. Patel shook his head vigorously. Commander, with respect, I don't think you understand the scale of what we're dealing with. These creatures aren't just dangerous predators. The intelligence markers suggest problem-solving abilities equal to or exceeding human levels. They're essentially super-intelligent apex predators with genetically enhanced physical capabilities. Then who enhanced them? Sarah asked. And why? Before anyone could answer, the ship's AI interrupted with its calm, synthetic voice. Attention, crew. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple large signatures rising from the planet's surface. Estimated time to intercept, 4 hours, 17 minutes. Jake rushed to the sensor station, his fingers flying over the controls. That's impossible. We're in high orbit. Nothing biological should be able to reach us at this altitude. The main display shifted to show external camera feeds. Against the black of space, illuminated by the distant star's light, shapes were rising from the planet's atmosphere. They moved with purpose, not the chaotic tumbling of debris, but the controlled ascent of something that knew exactly where it was going. Are those ships? Sarah whispered, but even as she said it, she could see they weren't mechanical constructs. The shapes were organic, writhing with muscular contractions that propelled them through the vacuum of space. Biological spacecraft, Dr. Patel breathed. The atmospheric analysis must have been detected. They know we're here. Jake's military training kicked in fully. All hands to battle stations. Prepare emergency protocols for immediate departure. He turned to Sarah and Patel. How is this possible? How are they surviving in vacuum? Patel was frantically analyzing the new data streaming in from the external sensors. The thermal imaging shows they're somehow maintaining internal pressure and temperature. The genetic modifications must include the ability to survive in space environments. This is technology far beyond anything we've imagined. Technology or evolution? Sarah asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. Both, Patel replied grimly. These creatures have been engineered by an intelligence that understands genetics better than we understand basic chemistry. The question is whether they did it to themselves or whether something else did it to them. The creatures were moving faster now, accelerating as they rose through the planet's exosphere. Camera magnification revealed details that made the human crew step back in instinctive fear. Each creature was roughly 20 meters in length, with 6 powerful appendages that seemed to function as both legs and propulsion systems. Their bodies were covered in what appeared to be natural armor plating, and bioluminescent patterns pulsed along their flanks in complex rhythms. Are they communicating? Jake asked. The light patterns are too regular to be random, Sarah confirmed, recording everything for later analysis. But we won't have time to decode their language before they reach us. Estimated time to contact? Jake called out. 2 hours, 53 minutes at current acceleration rate, the AI responded. Jake made his decision. Begin departure sequence. We're leaving now. But as the Prometheus began powering up its engines for departure, the sensors detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. More signatures were rising from the planet's surface. Not just a few, but hundreds of them, spreading out in a complex three-dimensional formation that would intercept them regardless of which direction they fled. It's a coordinated response, Sarah realized with growing horror. They planned this. They've been waiting for us. The creatures weren't just intelligent. They were strategic thinkers who had anticipated humanity's arrival and prepared accordingly. The research mission had become a trap, and the humans were about to learn why every other life form on the planet lived in terror of these apex predators. As the first wave of creatures continued their relentless approach, Dr. Patel made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden in the atmospheric data they'd collected over months of observation was a pattern he'd missed before. The planet's electromagnetic signature showed traces of ancient technology buried deep beneath the surface. "My God," he whispered, staring at his screen. "This isn't their planet. They're not native here. Someone brought them here and left them as guardians." "Guardians of what?" Sarah asked. Patel's voice was barely audible. "Something that required the ultimate biological weapons to protect it." The implications hit them all simultaneously. Humanity hadn't just stumbled upon dangerous predators. They had discovered a prison planet where something so valuable or dangerous that an unknown civilization had created the perfect killers to guard it. And now, those guardians were coming for the humans who had dared to approach their territory. The creatures were still rising, their bioluminescent patterns growing brighter as they detected the human vessel. In 2 hours, first contact would occur whether humanity was ready or not. The question was no longer about scientific discovery or peaceful exploration. The question was whether any of them would survive long enough to warn Earth about what was waiting in the darkness between the stars. The first creature reached the Prometheus exactly 2 hours and 47 minutes after detection, 6 minutes ahead of their projected timeline. It moved through space with a grace that defied everything humanity understood about physics and biology. Lieutenant Commander Morrison watched through the external cameras as the thing approached, its 6 appendages undulating in perfect coordination to maintain trajectory and speed. "Hull contact in 30 seconds, announced Chief Engineer Lisa Rodriguez from her position at the damage control station. Her voice carried the steady calm of someone who had trained for every possible emergency except this one. "All defensive systems online," Jake reported. Though he knew their weapons were designed for hostile ships, not living organisms that could survive in vacuum. "Dr. Chen, any recommendations for non-lethal deterrence?" Sarah was hunched over her research station, frantically cross-referencing the creature's approach patterns with every xenobiology protocol in their database. Standard audio deterrence would be useless in vacuum. Light-based warnings might work if they interpret strobing patterns as aggressive displays. "Do it," Jake ordered. The Prometheus's external lighting systems began flashing in rapid sequences, casting brilliant white light across the creature's approaching form. For a moment, it seemed to work. The creature slowed its approach and its bioluminescent patterns shifted to a different rhythm. Then it responded. The patterns along its flanks pulsed once in what could only be described as acknowledgement, and then changed to rapid red flashes that seemed almost like laughter. The creature resumed its approach, faster than before. "It's not deterred," Sarah reported unnecessarily. "If anything, it seems amused by our attempt at communication." The creature made contact with the hull with surprising gentleness. Through the ship's structural sensors, they could feel it moving along the outer surface, its appendages finding purchase on the metal plating. The crew held their breath, waiting for the inevitable attempt to breach the hull. Instead, the creature began tapping. The rhythmic metallic sounds echoed through the ship's corridors, transmitted through the hull's vibrations. It wasn't random noise. The pattern was complex, mathematical, deliberate. Dr. Patel looked up from his genetic analysis station with wide eyes. It's using prime number sequences, first contact protocol mathematics. How does it know our mathematics? Jake asked, though part of him was afraid he already knew the answer. It doesn't, Sarah realized with growing dread. It's demonstrating that it understands the concept of mathematics well enough to use our own first contact protocols against us. The tapping stopped abruptly. For several minutes, the only sound was the soft humming of the ship's life support systems. Then the creature began moving again, but this time it was examining specific areas of the hull with what appeared to be intense curiosity. It's studying our technology, Rodriguez reported from engineering. Thermal sensors show it's concentrating on the fusion reactor housing and the communication array. Learning our capabilities, Jake muttered. How long before the others arrive? 47 minutes, came the AI's response. The creature suddenly detached from the hull and moved to a position directly in front of the main observation deck. Through the reinforced transparent aluminum, the crew got their first close look at one of the planet's guardians. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The armored plating that covered its body was not uniform, but varied in thickness and texture, clearly evolved or engineered for maximum protection without sacrificing mobility. Its head was elongated, with sensory organs that glowed with internal light. Most disturbing were its eyes, clearly visible and unmistakably intelligent. They fixed on the humans watching from behind the viewport with an intensity that made several crew members step backward involuntarily. It's evaluating us, Dr. Patel whispered. Look at the way it's moving its head. It's cataloging our physical characteristics, our technology, our responses. The creature raised one of its appendages and pressed it against the viewport. The contact was gentle, almost curious. For a moment, human and alien regarded each other across the barrier of space and evolution. Then the creature's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a new configuration, one that pulsed in perfect synchronization with the Prometheus's emergency lighting system. It's mimicking our technology, Sarah breathed. It's showing us it can adapt to our methods of communication. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Or it's showing us it can adapt to anything we try against it. The creature held the synchronized pattern for exactly 30 seconds, then shifted to what appeared to be a questioning configuration, rapid alternating lights that seemed to be asking for a response. Should we respond? Sarah asked. Before Jake could answer, the ship's communication system activated. Not the external communication array, but the internal ship-wide intercom. The creature's voice filled the corridors and compartments of the Prometheus. Humans, it said in perfect, unaccented English, we greet you. The crew stood frozen in shock. The creature had somehow tapped into their communication systems and learned their language from the ship's computer databases. But that level of technological manipulation should have been impossible for a biological organism. How are you accessing our systems? Jake asked aloud, hoping the creature could hear him. Your technology is crude but functional, came the response. We have observed species like yours before. You always follow similar patterns in your development. Sarah stepped closer to the viewport. You've encountered other human-like species? Many. Most do not survive their first contact with guardians. You show promise by attempting communication rather than immediate aggression. Dr. Patel was frantically recording everything, his hands shaking as he operated his equipment. What are you guarding? The creature's light patterns shifted to what might have been amusement. Knowledge that your species is not ready to possess. Weapons that would end civilizations. Truths that would drive lesser minds to madness. Who created you? Sarah asked. We created ourselves, with guidance from those who came before. Each generation becomes stronger, smarter, more capable. We are perfection in biological form. Jake felt his military training assert itself. What do you want from us? To test you, to determine if humanity deserves to join the greater community of intelligent species, or if you are another failed experiment that must be contained. The weight of those words settled over the crew like a physical presence. Humanity was being judged, and the judges were creatures that had been engineered to be superior to them in every conceivable way. What kind of test? Sarah asked, though she was afraid she already knew. Survival? Combat? The demonstration of traits that mark a species as worthy of advancement rather than extinction. More shapes appeared in the viewport as the remaining creatures arrived from the planet's surface. They arranged themselves in a perfect sphere around the Prometheus, each one maintaining precise distance from the others. The formation spoke of military precision and tactical thinking that rivaled humanity's best strategic minds. You have one of your hours to prepare, the creature announced. Then the test begins. Your ship against our collective. If you prove yourselves worthy through demonstration of courage, intelligence, and adaptability, we will allow you to leave and report to your kind. If you fail, you will join the countless other species whose remains fertilize the soil of our world. The communication cut off, leaving the crew in stunned silence. Through the viewport, they could see the creatures maintaining their positions, waiting with infinite patience for the test to begin. Options? Jake asked his senior staff. Rodriguez spoke first. We could try to run. The fusion drive at maximum burn might get us clear of their formation before they can react. No good, Sarah countered. They've demonstrated they can match or exceed our acceleration. Running would just prove we're not worthy of their consideration. We could try to negotiate, suggested Dr. Patel. Appeal to their intelligence, explain that humanity has more to offer than just combat capability. Jake shook his head. They've made it clear this is about proving ourselves through their criteria, not ours. They want to see us fight. Then we fight, Rodriguez said grimly. The Prometheus has defensive capabilities. We're not helpless. But as they began planning their defense, Sarah made a discovery that changed everything. While analyzing the creature's formations and movement patterns, she noticed something that the others had missed. The spacing between the creatures wasn't random or even militarily optimal. It was mathematical, following complex patterns that seemed familiar. The formation they're using, she said slowly, her voice filled with growing excitement. It's based on human mathematical principles, specifically the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequences. So, Jake asked, though he could see she was on to something important. Don't you see? They're not just testing our combat capabilities. They're testing whether we can recognize our own mathematical concepts when they're used against us. They're evaluating our intelligence as much as our fighting ability. Dr. Patel looked up from his scanner readings. The genetic enhancements I detected earlier, I've been thinking about them wrong. They're not just random improvements. They follow patterns, mathematical patterns that correlate with optimal efficiency curves. They're showing us their work, Sarah realized. Everything they do is based on logical mathematical principles. They're demonstrating that they understand the universe on a level that allows them to engineer perfection. Jake felt a glimmer of hope. If they value intelligence as much as combat ability, then maybe we can pass this test by demonstrating that we understand what they're really asking for. What are they really asking for? Rodriguez asked. Sarah turned to face the assembled senior staff, her eyes bright with possibility. They want to know if we can think like they think, if we can recognize the mathematical beauty underlying their approach to existence. If humanity has the potential to reach their level of understanding. How do we demonstrate that? Jake asked. By responding to their test in a way that shows we understand the real challenge, Sarah replied. We don't fight them with brute force. We match their mathematical precision with our own. We show them that humans can think beyond simple aggression and recognize the elegant solutions that evolution and engineering can create. The hour was almost up. Around the Prometheus, the creatures maintained their perfect formation, waiting for humanity's response to their challenge. The test was about to begin, and everything humanity had achieved would be measured against the standards of beings who had transcended the normal limitations of biological existence. The question was whether human ingenuity and mathematical understanding would be enough to earn the respect of creatures who had spent millennia perfecting themselves into the ultimate expression of intelligent life. The Prometheus hung motionless in space as the final minutes of preparation time elapsed. Around them, the creatures maintained their mathematical formation with mechanical precision, each one a perfect node in a three-dimensional pattern that spoke of intelligence far beyond anything humanity had previously encountered. 30 seconds remaining, announced the AI's synthetic voice. Lieutenant Commander Morrison stood at the center of the bridge, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Dr. Chen had convinced him that their only chance lay not in fighting the creatures, but in demonstrating that humans could match their mathematical sophistication. It was a gamble that would either save humanity's future among the stars or end it entirely. "All stations report ready," Chief Rodriguez announced from engineering. "Fusion reactor at optimal efficiency, maneuvering thrusters calibrated for precision movement, and the communication array has been modified according to Dr. Chen's specifications." Sarah stood at her science station, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she finalized the most important calculation of her life. "The response pattern is ready, Commander. If we're right about what they're really testing, this should demonstrate that humanity understands the mathematical principles underlying their entire civilization." "And if we're wrong?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we become another failed species whose remains fertilize their world," Dr. Patel replied grimly. "But I believe Sarah is correct. Every interaction they've had with us has been about demonstrating mathematical concepts. They're not just guardians of some hidden knowledge. They are living proof that intelligence can transcend biological limitations through mathematical understanding." The final seconds ticked away in silence. Then the creature that had first made contact spoke through the ship's communication system. "Time has expired, humans. Demonstrate your worthiness." Instead of powering weapons or attempting to flee, the Prometheus began to move in a pattern that seemed random to casual observation, but the creatures immediately recognized what the humans were attempting. The ship traced the outline of a perfect dodecahedron in three-dimensional space, its movements precise to within millimeters despite the complexity of the maneuver. "We acknowledge the mathematical beauty of your formation," Sarah broadcast on all frequencies. "We respond with our own demonstration of geometric understanding." The creature's bioluminescent patterns shifted immediately, no longer showing the steady rhythms of waiting, but the rapid flickers of excited communication. They were talking to each other, and their patterns suggested surprise and approval. The Prometheus completed its geometric dance and moved into the second phase of Sarah's plan. The ship began emitting precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that corresponded to the mathematical constants that underpinned the universe itself. Pi, the golden ratio; Euler's number, the fine structure constant. Each one transmitted in binary format that any technologically advanced species would recognize. "Impressive," came the creature's response. "You demonstrate knowledge of universal mathematical truths. But knowledge alone does not prove worthiness. Show us that you can apply these principles to solve problems beyond the scope of your current understanding." The test's second phase began immediately. The creatures started moving in a pattern so complex that the Prometheus's computers struggled to track all the variables. It wasn't random movement, but it was far beyond any mathematical concept that humanity had previously encountered. The pattern seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, with elements that suggested the creatures understood aspects of space-time that human science was only beginning to theorize about. "They're demonstrating higher dimensional mathematics," Dr. Patel whispered in awe. "This is geometry that operates in 11-dimensional space. The implications for physics, for our understanding of reality itself." "Can we match it?" Jake asked. Sarah was already working on the problem, her mind racing through mathematical possibilities that pushed the limits of human knowledge. "Not exactly, but we might be able to demonstrate that we understand the principles they're showing us, even if we can't fully replicate them." She began programming the Prometheus to respond with humanity's most advanced mathematical concepts. The ship moved through space in patterns that incorporated quantum mechanical principles, relativistic effects, and the mathematical foundations of consciousness itself. It was humanity's best attempt to show that they understood the universe was far more complex than simple 3-dimensional thinking could encompass. The creature's response was immediate and positive. Their bioluminescent displays shifted to patterns of what could only be interpreted as approval and excitement. They had found a species that might finally be ready to join them in the next level of existence. "Very good," the lead creature broadcasted, "but the final test remains. Mathematics without practical application is merely intellectual exercise. Show us that humanity can use its understanding to transcend its current limitations." The third phase of the test began with a challenge that none of the humans had anticipated. The creatures suddenly accelerated toward the Prometheus at velocities that should have been impossible for biological organisms. But instead of attacking, they began sharing their own mathematical patterns through direct contact with the ship's hull. Information flowed into the Prometheus's computers at rates that threatened to overwhelm their processing capacity. Genetic templates, technological blueprints, mathematical proofs that extended human understanding by centuries. It was a download of knowledge that represented the accumulated wisdom of a species that had spent millennia perfecting itself. "They're giving us the tools to evolve ourselves," Sarah realized with growing amazement. "This isn't about proving we're worthy of survival. It's about determining whether we're ready to join them as equals." But the gift came with a challenge. The information was incomplete, requiring the humans to fill in the gaps using their own intellectual capabilities. It was a test of whether humanity could take advanced knowledge and apply it creatively rather than simply copying what they were given. Jake made the crucial decision. "We're not going to use this knowledge to enhance ourselves immediately. We're going to show them that we understand the responsibility that comes with this kind of power. Instead of applying the genetic and technological templates to improve human capabilities, the crew of the Prometheus used the mathematical principles to solve a different problem entirely. They designed and transmitted a solution to one of the galaxy's greatest challenges, the mathematical framework for sustainable interstellar civilization that could prevent the resource conflicts that had destroyed countless species before they could reach their potential. The solution was elegant in its simplicity and profound in its implications. It showed that humanity understood not just how to become more powerful, but how to use power responsibly for the benefit of all intelligent life. The creature's response was unlike anything they had demonstrated before. Their bioluminescent patterns synchronized across all of them simultaneously, creating a display of light that was visible across multiple star systems. It was celebration, approval, and welcome all combined into a single magnificent gesture. "Humans," the lead creature spoke, and for the first time its voice carried warmth rather than clinical assessment. "You have passed the final test. You understand that true evolution is not about becoming stronger or smarter, but about becoming wiser. You are ready to join the collective." "The collective?" Jake asked. "A civilization of species that have transcended their biological limitations, not through conquest or consumption, but through mathematical understanding and ethical application of knowledge. We are the guardians not of treasures or weapons, but of wisdom itself. And humanity has proven itself worthy of that wisdom. The creatures began transmitting again, but this time the information was complete, unrestricted, and given freely. The secrets of biological enhancement, faster-than-light travel, communication across galactic distances, energy manipulation at the quantum level, technologies that would transform humanity from a single-planet species to a cosmic civilization. But perhaps more importantly, they transmitted the ethical frameworks that would ensure humanity used these capabilities responsibly. The mathematical proofs that showed how cooperation and mutual support led to exponentially greater success than competition and conquest. The historical records of species that had failed these tests, and the lessons learned from their mistakes. "There is one final gift," the creature announced. "The location of other species that are approaching readiness for these tests. Humanity will become guardians as well, helping to guide the next generation of intelligent life toward wisdom rather than destruction." Dr. Patel was weeping openly as he absorbed the implications. "We're not alone. We never were alone. Intelligence exists throughout the galaxy, and now we're part of the community that nurtures it." Sarah felt a profound sense of completion as she realized the true scope of what had just occurred. The disastrous outcome wasn't what we feared. It was disastrous for humanity's isolation. We've been forced to grow beyond our limitations and join something far greater than ourselves. The creatures began to withdraw, their test complete and their new allies accepted into the galactic community. But they left behind communication protocols and meeting coordinates where humanity could begin its education in cosmic civilization. "This is only the beginning," the lead creature's final message stated. "Humanity has earned the right to explore the galaxy not as conquerors or colonists, but as gardeners of intelligence itself. Use this gift wisely, and remember that with great knowledge comes the responsibility to nurture rather than exploit." As the Prometheus prepared for its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would transform human civilization forever, Jake reflected on how wrong their initial fears had been. They had expected to encounter killer creatures that would test humanity's ability to survive through force and cunning. Instead, they had discovered that the universe's most dangerous predators were actually its most committed teachers. And the most disastrous outcome possible was remaining forever isolated from the community of intelligent life that filled the galaxy. Humanity had faced its killer creatures and emerged not as survivors of a battle, but as graduates of the universe's most important school. The outcome had indeed been disastrous, for ignorance, isolation, and the primitive thinking that had previously defined human existence among the stars. The real journey was just beginning, and it would lead humanity to heights of wisdom and capability that no one aboard the Prometheus could have imagined when they first detected those mysterious signatures rising from the planet below. They had come seeking new worlds to explore, and instead found new ways of being that would reshape the very meaning of human existence in the cosmos.